Yay!
Welcome back to the Professional Fan Podcast. Today I'm joined by Yasmin, so let's get moving. So, first question for people who may not know
Mhm.
you or may not know your work, how would you introduce yourself and what you do?
My name's Yasmin. Currently a marketing student, but I'm very, very lucky to be working with my favorite band and their team. I do, I just run essentially a fan account for the band, but we're very lucky that the band's official team interact with us, share our posts. We've done Instagram collabs with them, we keep in contact with them. It's basically just having a fan account that the band utilize, and it's great.
Yeah,
So good.
awesome. What does this role include day to day?
I will say a lot of time and effort, but it gives me a lot of creativity. I have access to things like Canvas, so I get to create stuff. So I create things not only for our account, but also the band might be like, hey, like, you know, do you want to maybe do like a poster or whatever? So we can do that. It's just a lot of creativity, a lot of time and effort, but also flexibility. Whatever we want to post, we can. Any updates we want to post, any fan art we want to post, it kind of just gives me full creative freedom, and I love it. It's so much fun.
How do you sort of mix that like love for this artist and like working with them and their team?
I think, to be honest, I think a lot of it comes from essentially starting out on the whole like stand Twitter thing back in like 2013, 2014. Obviously, like I grew up around the time where you had bands like One Direction and 5 Seconds of Summer, like just starting out. Obviously, One Direction were like in their peak back then. Obviously, 5 Seconds of Summer hit their peak in what 2014 with like the recent like release of the debut album and stuff. So I
Yeah.
think having like the years of love for them and enjoying their music and stuff definitely really helps with that, because as much as a lot of people might be like, oh, do you not like freak out and stuff working with their team? I think when you have the experience of working with the fandom, but also being part of it, that's what definitely helps with it all, I'd say. Because you get to kind of be yourself and be a fan, but then there's also times where you can sit down and look at it and say, okay, so I'm working with them, I need to do this, this, and this. And then after that, I know I can go back to being a fan. We can celebrate a post of ours doing really well because we've collabed with the team. And, it's really helped us on our end. It's really helped them on their end. It's like a 50-50 mix of being a fan, but then also mixing that in with like the professional side of it, I'd say.
Yeah.
So it's
And
it's
like
really, really enjoyable.
yeah, and sort of that the fact that you get to promote the band that you've loved for so long, it's kind of
Yeah,
easy to stay professional at.
it's never ending promo for them, and obviously that's what we essentially do. Obviously, yes, we do provide updates, but the whole point of our account is it's like a safe space for fans. It's a step away from kind of that negative side of social media. So we kind of not only promote the band, we also promote a safe space. We also give the fans a place to feel welcome and enjoy the band without worrying about someone judging what they post or whatever. So it's kind of like a mix of having that safe space while we're being professional about it, but also offering out to fans and saying, hey, we want to post your stuff. We want you to enjoy our content. This is for everyone, regardless of how long they've been a fan of the band. So we really push to like strive in being a safe space for the band, essentially.
For people who may have been part of this team in the past, like what does running a fan account like this, like where does that lead?
I mean, it leads to here, essentially. You get to work with a lot of your favorite artists. I'm very, very lucky because not only is it given me experience for my CV, it also means maybe in 2 years' time after I've graduated, I can approach a record label and say, hey, like I've got experience in running a fan account that has worked directly with an artist team. While it might not be the official HQ account, it's still the experience of working with them and knowing what it essentially takes to be part of that. Um, and I think as well, the most important thing is just the experience of being a fan and running such a dedicated account, because that in itself can be very time consuming. I mean, I knew when I was younger, which especially with like One Direction, for example, I never wanted to miss anything they did. At all times, I wanted to be like, what are they doing? Like, where they're performing next. So I feel like that in itself is so time consuming, but it's such a fun experience. And I've always been for people running fan accounts. I've always said everyone should run a fan account. It's the best thing in the world. It's so much fun when you do it right, and I love it.
Do you have advice for someone who might be running a fan account on like what that line is of professionalism versus fan?
I think the most important thing is, especially if it's something that you want to go into as a career, utilize your resources. So, say for example, say for example, you've had a couple of interactions with like their HQ team. Maybe like reach out, maybe change your account up a little bit, be more professional. Think of essentially something unique that stands out to them and just go for it. Just reach out and say, hey, would this be something you guys would be interested in? Whether that's you work with them or you give them that idea and give them full permission to go with it. I mean, like we reached out over a template, over a story template, and now, we're very much in contact with them when we work with them. And if we hadn't have reached out, we wouldn't be where we are. And I think it's really, really important to just bite the bullet and go for it because you never know where it's going to lead you. You could be doing this exact same thing. So it's really, really important to just reach out, take take the chance, and 9 out of 10 times I can guarantee you it's going to happen. You will get good things from it.
Pivoting slightly, do you remember when you first realized that the music industry was something you wanted to work in, not just sort of experience as a fan?
I've always had like a really big fascination with that. I remember when I was younger, like even watching videos of again, like One Direction, obviously they were like my first major band to like ever run a fan account for. And I remember seeing videos of their like team behind the scenes or whatever doing their thing, like getting content. And I'd be like, wow, like that's such a cool job to do.
Mhm.
And you see all these stories about them. They're like, they're very lucky they get to travel the world and stuff. And I think that's what stood out to me, like having a job that you can see that they're genuinely happy in, but also they also have full flexibility and stuff. They know what they're doing. And I think that kind of stood out to me because I was like, I'd love to be able to work with really insanely talented people who I also like have a lot of love for, but also getting to do something like that. It was so exciting to me when I was younger. And I think as I got older, I kind of realized like I definitely want to do this. Like I've always had a passion for it. And I think being in that fan culture completely solidified it for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you've mentioned One Direction and Five Stars, but is there anyone else who was really important in that journey?
I was, this is quite funny actually. I was a really big fan of like very early days Sabrina Carpenter
Mm.
and her music. Like, obviously, I grew up with Disney Channel, so she was a big staple in my life. Like, I remember I used to go to my grandma and grandpa and stuff, and I'd get back from school, Disney Channel would be on. And obviously, Sabrina Carpenter was in like very early day, like Disney Channel programs and stuff. And I remember when she started releasing music, I was like, wow, like she's so talented, all this and that. So I think people like her who started their career kind of on things like Disney Channel and stuff, they really stood out to me as well because I was like, it's so cool how someone can be, an actor or an actress on the screen, and then you go to Spotify and they've got like this album out and it's just pure talent after talent just pours from them. So I think people like Sabrina Carpenter was like a massive thing for me as well.
Do you think that part of like being chronically online and watching Disney Channel and like being so tapped in, do you think that brings something extra to this industry?
I would say yes. Obviously, having fan accounts over the years, I will admit it myself, I can be very chronically online. I'm always in the know about things, but I do also think if you want to go into a role like this, it's important to have that because you need to know pretty much at all times what the fans are really interested in. Like, so there's like a viral video of like Luke Hemmings on stage and the fans loved it. We have to think, okay, let's find something similar that we know they're going to enjoy. So I think constantly pumping out that content that they're going to love and being able to find it at all times and knowing exactly what the fans want is so important. And I will say there's obviously a good and a bad side to being chronically online, definitely. But I think you can utilize the good side of that so easy and it's so important for this role. Like, and obviously things like Disney Channel and stuff. And I think finding like your favorite artists through things that aren't necessarily music is a really great way as well.
Has anyone studied fan engagement marketing? Because I will say on that note, I've been around for a little while, and you guys
Mm.
always seem to know what the fans want.
To be honest, I think because obviously I used to run like a much bigger Five Sauce account back in the day. I kind of threw myself in the deep end with that. I went from obviously running like my own personal fan account, which was me tweeting about how much I loved their music and stuff, to obviously, I think on the old account we had like 500k followers. And obviously that's a huge jump to go from what, probably like my 6k to 500k. And I think we kind of realized very quickly these people rely on us for updates and rely on us for things about the band. So I think we didn't necessarily study it as like an educational aspect. We studied it as like a this is what we need to do. We essentially have a platform here. We need to use that platform and give back to the fans with what they want. So I wouldn't say we necessarily like studied it. It's more of just like a process that we've picked up on and we kind of now just we know what the fans want. We look at our like analytics and we think, okay, this video's done really well. So, they want more like this. And sometimes we will put out like a poll on our Instagram and just say, hey, like, what would you like to see more of? And people will say, oh, like more tour videos, because obviously they're on tour right now. People are always wanting to find out, like, what like the surprise song is during their set. So I think it's just mainly based on that and constantly checking in with the fans saying, hey, like, what do you want from us? Like, what can we do to, keep you guys in the loop? And I think using that is just the best way for us to do fan engagement, to be honest. And it's honestly worked so well. We've grown so much over the past maybe month and a half with them being on tour and stuff, and it's been really, really good to watch, to be honest.
Yeah, how have you found this era? Because like I've just found running Fan Fridays. I posted Five Sauce and their tour content one time, and now every Friday I have so many DMs. So what's it
Yeah.
like having that feedback from all of the fans?
I would say it's useful and it honestly it keeps us on our toes. Like there is always something for us. Like well, like sometimes I'll just be on my like personal TikTok page scrolling and I'll see like a funny video of them on stage. I'll post it on like on our Instagram and 20 minutes later we've got like 8,000 views. Everyone's commenting like this is so good, like this is so funny. And that kind of makes me realize, oh, we're kind of giving people more than what they see. And I think that's why they rely on us so much because they obviously they're not going to see every single video ever, but we like to give them the videos that they might have missed or stuff that's maybe only just come out. Like if the band posts a new TikTok, we post it straight away. So people can be like, oh, okay, like that's what they've just posted. And then they might find it like 20 minutes later themselves. So I think it's just mostly using their feedback to just keep us in the loop. And also, it's just useful because we know what they want to see themselves. And that's what keeps them happy.
And then with your account, the Five Sauce years as well, um, I don't know, is your team got people from sort of all around different countries?
So you've obviously got me in the UK, and then the other co-owners are mainly like US based. But what we've noticed with those times, like the time zones there, is they kind of work perfectly. So like when I'm going to bed, for example, obviously now they're touring in like the US and stuff, they'll be on stage. So I'll update a few things before I go to bed at like 1, 2 in the morning when they just get on stage. And then the other like people in the team will kind of carry on doing that and then when I get up in the morning, if there's anything that's been missed, like a new video's come out of them on stage, I will post that. So I think that's kind of like the best dynamic for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was going to ask about like that feedback worldwide because I did see, because for a band that's Australian, they don't have a Oz NZ update account. I did
Yeah,
I did wonder because I was like, oh well, if they did have it, the times wouldn't line up. Um,
yeah. I know there's like a couple of the fan accounts that are mainly on Twitter that have like a few Aussie like co-owners, but I think that's just because they've been around for as probably as long as us. They've been there since like the early days and stuff, because obviously that's the band's roots. They kind of started out there, and I think over time, a few of them have dropped off, but I know there's definitely a couple that have at least one or two that are still on the account. But I think as well, I think with that, because obviously they're massive in Australia, but I feel like they're so much bigger in like America and like United Kingdom that I think a lot of people from those countries and continents have decided to make their own fan accounts because of just how big they've gotten. And obviously they understand not everyone's in the Australian time zone and stuff and like the New Zealand time zone. So I think having that has kind of helped over the years as well.
What do you think people misunderstand the most about fan culture?
A lot of it, I think, there's this, I don't know if you've seen it online, but there's this whole stereotype around fangirls at the moment. And I think a lot of it roots from misogyny because
Mm,
obviously a lot of people when they hear the word fangirl, they think of this like little squeamish girl. She's like really happy to see like her favorite band or whatever. But I don't think they take into account that these are also the people that are the backbone of the music industry, you know. There's a lot of artists now that have their own actual fans running their HQ accounts that is like completely backed by their record label because they do such a good job at it. And yes, they're also a fan themselves, but they have everything they need in their power and more to actually do such a good job, sometimes better than a lot of professionals as well, because they've grown up with fan culture. And I think a lot of people just don't realize that essentially fan culture is the way to go in music. I mean, you know, you've got record labels now that are actively hiring fans to help the artists themselves. Like, I mean, if you look at Louis Tomlinson, his Discord, his team put out a thing and they were like, hey, we want to hire actual fans to run this Discord. So, you know, when you've got artists you know, you've got Louis Tomlinson from One Direction utilizing his fan base, like people don't realize how important that is in fan culture and they don't realize that fangirls and people who love music are the backbone for the music industry. It wouldn't be anywhere without fans and fangirls and people who love music. You know, artists wouldn't be able to go on tour without fans. They wouldn't be able to make money from their streams. They wouldn't be able to make music without their fans because, yes, okay, they might just make music for the fun of it, but it's so rewarding for an artist when they realize actually my music's got people. People love my music. People love me as an artist, you know, fans are so important. And I don't think everybody sees it as that. I think some people just see it as fangirl culture is like boring. It's just people that like camp outside and they just, you know, they spend all this money to see their favorite artist. But that's someone who's important to that fan. You know, that fan has grown up probably with that artist. Like, look at Harry Styles. He's
mm.
selling out 12 nights at Wembley. Like, I went on Friday and had the best time of my life. And you feel so loved in these environments. And I don't think people see it that. I genuinely do think a lot of people see it as, oh, squeamish little fangirls, spending all the money, blah, blah, blah. But it's just, it's so much more than that. It's about what they do for the music industry and what they do for artists themselves as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that as well because like my show is not until October, and
Mm,
every time Spotify um goes on shuffle and gives me one of the live songs, I cry because I'm like, nope, I can't accept the fact that that's gonna
yeah,
nope. There's that part of me that's like, okay, it's cool when they're just like the Australian boys on my screen, but if they're actually standing in front of me, I'm like, nope.
yeah. No, that was me on tour. Like, obviously, I've seen them quite a few times on like the previous tours and stuff. Like, I've been to every tour they've done. But there is such a huge difference between listening to them like through your AirPods or whatever, and then suddenly they're like 10 feet in front of you, and you're like, whoa, like
Yeah.
these are actual real people. Like they're not in my little like box of a phone. It's crazy to think about.
The biggest thing I've heard from a lot of my oomph for lack of a better term, um, is the biggest surprise is actually going from phone screen to seeing them in real life and how tall they are.
Yeah, it's quite scary actually, because I'm quite a short person myself, and I knew over the years they were quite tall. And like I met Ashton on the past tour, and I knew he was tall, but I didn't realize he was that tall until he was like stood next to me in the photo, and I was like, whoa. I was like, you are a really tall man. Like, that's crazy. So
Yeah.
weird.
What skills from fan accounts and fan activities do you think translate the most into this industry?
I think, obviously, I brought it up before, but I think time and like the effort that goes into it. I think if you are wanting to go into this industry and you've already put a lot of time and effort into running a fan account, that definitely carries over. I think it shows that you're very reliable as well. If you put in all this time and effort over the years, I think, if you approach a music label and say, hey, like, I'd love to run an account for so and so, if they look at your history and they go, okay, like, have you run fan accounts before? You say, yeah, and you can show them. It's not an easy thing. And I think a lot of fans will agree with me on that as well. It takes a lot of time, because you have to be in the loop about a lot of stuff, obviously it's it's time consuming supporting an artist, especially when they're constantly on tour doing like world tours and stuff or like releasing new music. There's so much going on all at once and it takes a lot of time and effort to focus on all of that while doing your own thing in the background as well, like just going out with friends and stuff. So I'd say definitely time and like your effort. Also, I just think the skill of being online and just kind of being in the loop and being the first, like obviously when you run like a fan account or like an update account, fans want to see the updates as they come in. So I think having the skill to be very chronically online, essentially, to kind of be in the loop, know all your resources, know where artists like to post, some will even say, oh, they like to post on maybe TikTok first because that's like probably the biggest social media platform there is right now. So I think it's just about being online, having the resources, time and effort, and also just being like fun and being yourself as well. You know, just being yourself online, it's so fun having a fan account when you're comfortable enough to be yourself and love the artists in the way that you do and not feel like it's a forced love because of society views on fangirls and stuff. So I'd definitely say those are like the top skills for it all.
What are some common mistakes that you see people make in this industry?
Oh, I think a common one, I wouldn't really say it's like a mistake as such, but I think, don't get me wrong, like there's nothing wrong with artists and stuff tapping into trends, but I think fans always love to see fresh new content from the artist and like not necessarily content based around trends. Even sometimes just like a backstage video of maybe like the thing I don't know if you've seen it, but on like 5 Cents of Summer Stories, they do like a mid-show check-in
Yeah.
and things like that. The fans are obsessed with that. Those are some of the best videos that do well on our page when we post them because everyone's like, these are so cool to see. So I wouldn't really call it a mistake, but I would say like maybe not having that kind of unique point in the artist's like online activity, like something that the fans can turn around and say, whoa, like this is something not every artist does. Um, but I'd say that's probably like the biggest thing. And just I think having another one would probably just be having like no fans on the team. I keep saying this all the time, but we need labels to start hiring fans. They know what they're doing. Fans know what fans want from running Stan accounts and Stan culture. Like Stan culture became a thing because of people like One Direction and stuff. And, Justin Bieber fans like Beliebers back in the day, they were like the OG Stan accounts. So
Mm.
I think it would definitely be a mistake for record labels and like music companies and stuff to not hire fans. They know what they're doing online. They spend their teenage years and stuff online. They know fans better than anyone else, essentially.
Yeah. And speaking of knowing the fans, we have to talk about the latest tour. The Law drops, the Exploring the City, all
Hmm.
of that. Five Stars are kind of, in my very biased opinion, the lead for getting fans involved. I mean, they have them on stage every night with the Boy
Yeah.
Band Award. They have the suitcase with the secret songs. How amazing has that been to see?
I've loved every minute of it, to be honest. They've always been very open with like how close they are with fans and stuff, and they've always been a very honest band about it. They wouldn't be here without us, and we are, I keep saying it, but we are the backbone to the music industry because we know how to promote them. And, I think this is kind of their way of saying, hey, like, this is a thank you for over the years. We're going to give you the best tour that you'll ever go to. And I will say it's their best tour. Like, everything they do on this tour is so, it just revolves around the fans. And I think people love it because even the fans that might ne not necessarily be on the stage, they feel so involved because not only have you got the lore, which is like the history of the band and like funny moments, but people love surprise songs. I think, ever since Taylor Swift did like on the Earth, like a surprise song and stuff, people have been obsessed with that. So when Five Stars turned around and said, "Hey, we're gonna get it so you guys can pick the song," I think that's what made it even more interesting because people were like, "We're
Yeah,
actually involved in this. We essentially have some control over the show." And I think they've done such a good job with it and it's done so well. And it's been so exciting to just see like we'll tweet out, for example, or like post on our Instagram, like, oh, these are tonight's surprise songs. Everyone freaks out because at least one of their favorite songs is on there.
yeah.
And they'll be like, oh, everyone should vote for this one, everyone should, and then everyone's like really happy when like a song that they all collectively voted for and love is played that night at the show. So it's just been so exciting to see. And I think it's just such a clever idea.
Makes me nervous as one of the last shows to be like, oh, what if they play
Yeah.
all of my
I
options?
forget how late on your leg of the tour is.
Yeah, because ours is the first of the last leg, essentially.
Mm,
Oh, no, we might not be now because they've added a second
no,
Asian leg.
yeah, there's the Asia leg now. That goes on till like December now. So you are like the second to last leg, I believe.
I think this has semi been answered by some of the previous questions, but how important is networking in a job like this?
Networking, like that's the top thing. Um, so for example, my LinkedIn, when I first started LinkedIn, I think I just got it because I think everyone was talking about it online a couple of years back, and I was like, oh, like, might be good for me in the future. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I love LinkedIn because you can just have anything you want on there about your job or like even your dream job, and people will support you no matter what. Like you could just post like, oh, just started up a new fan account. People will comment. People that you don't even know because it's on their feed will comment like, hey, this is really cool. I'm going to follow you. Um, you know, I'm connected with a lot of people within the music industry that I wouldn't have never thought I'd connect with. Like I've got connections from like music labels all across the world because of what I do. And I think it's so special that something as simple as running a fan account can lead you to these kind of things. And it's great for opportunities as well. Because the second you say, for example, you're like me and you did a marketing degree, the second you graduate, you're most likely able to get a good job from having those networking like connections and stuff. So I think it's your top priority if this is something that you want to go in. Just set up a LinkedIn, network with everyone. 9 out of 10 times they're going to accept your like connection request.
Yeah.
And then it's literally just up from there. Once you've got the connections and stuff and you've networked.
I joined LinkedIn myself. I wasn't going to. My tutor was like, "Oh, LinkedIn, it's amazing. You need it. You can make so many
Yeah,
connections, especially being in New Zealand." And I was like, "Yeah, but nah." And then Callum Hood did his rollout through LinkedIn, and so I was like, "You know what? Callum Hood's a cool guy, so I'll check it out." From there, I found because I went to follow Callum first, I found a whole bunch of
yeah,
Five Sauce related people.
yeah,
I think I started following you as one of my first as well.
yeah.
So
I know we've been following each other for a while now.
yeah,
I remember when Callum did his whole LinkedIn thing, and even the fans were like, "I'm just setting up a LinkedIn connect to him." And obviously back then I was on like the bigger update account, like the one that had like 500K. And I remember I literally tweeted out, I said, if you're creating a LinkedIn for the whole Callum Hood album rollout, I said, utilize it. I said, especially if this is an industry you want to go in. And so many people replied, being like, "Oh, I've just got like 20 new connections on like my first day that work in the industry." And I was like, it's such a good example to follow.
it is such a cool thing that a album rollout has actually taught fans a valuable marketing skill, which is what
That's what
I
I loved
really
about it.
appreciate.
That's what I loved about it. And like, I think the marketing behind Callum's album rollout was so good. Like, he had such a good team behind all that. And like, he was so involved with it as well. And I loved that because all the fans were like, this is so fun. Same with like Michael, like same with all of their solo work, to be honest. They all had their like own little kind of like niche way of rolling out their albums. And I think that taught the fans a lot as well about how to market your solo work because realistically, you don't know how your solo work's going to do when you're in a band. Like it's 50-50. You don't know how the fans are going to feel, but they've done it so well that the fans love all of their solo works. Like they love the solo segment at the shows as well.
Yeah.
So it's like a whole new experience for them, I think, to have kind of like the solo works.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Michael had his own sandwich. Callum had multiple different things.
Right?
I'm less familiar with Ashton and Luke's rollouts, which is weird for me because I watched, but for some reason it's
Yeah.
hazy. But I think
So
that's because of the years it was.
yeah, I mean, like Luke's, he obviously, it's really funny because obviously for his second EP, like Boy, he did like listening parties and stuff. I was actually invited to that, which is still mental to this day. I got invited, so I went to that, and like it was just such a like intimate moment with like him and like maybe like 20 other fans, and you just listen. And then online and stuff, he's constantly like promoting it, and obviously fan accounts to back it. Same with Ashton, like he promoted all of his work himself. At one point he also came out with like a candle brand, which was insane. Such a good brand as well. I'm so upset that he's not restocked yet. I really hope he
Yeah,
restocks his
bring that
candles.
back. Bring
Yeah,
that back,
Ashton Owen,
please.
bring back Clubhouse Candle, please. I need a restock. Mine died months ago and I'm waiting.
Yes, I wasn't able to get them because Mum's allergic to scents, but I've moved
Oh,
out of my parents' house, so I'm begging bring them back so I can experience that.
praying.
Yeah.
Honestly, best sense ever. I loved mine. They lasted me so long and they smelled so good the whole time. I was like, this is perfect. So I hope he brings it back. That's my one wish.
Yeah, like as an anniversary of the album thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
My final question, what
Hmm.
does the term professional fan mean for you?
To me, personally, I think it's when you have someone who runs a fan account, and that's not necessarily like an update account or like a HQ account. I think it's someone who has a fan account and completely utilizes it to obviously work with the artist and their team, but to also just express their love for the artist in their own way. Obviously, as like I said earlier, everyone runs their account in different ways. Like everyone's themselves online, everyone's a different person. But I think for a professional fan, you've you've taken your fan account and you've made it into something special. It reflects you, like it's a reflection on what you love, it's a reflection of how you work. And I think, in 5 years' time, when people go, okay, time to maybe look at getting a job in the music industry if that's what they want to do, they have it right there and then on their phone or their laptop on their fan account. Say, hey, like I actually run a fan account. This is how it is. That's how so many people get into the music industry who were previous fans and stuff. Like I've got a family member who's in the music industry, and even she said she grew up with like fan accounts and stuff, and she loved One Direction. And now she works at like a music label and stuff and does all sorts of things in the music industry. And it's like that's what a professional fan is, when you can prove that you can take a fan account and turn it into something so beautiful and full of life, but you can also love an artist and, express that love for them, but then also put that into your own kind of like job in your career. I think just being able to kind of build up on that and essentially, again, just utilize that fan account and make that your own special little thing. I think that's essentially what being a professional fan is to me.